Hello, this is Gerald Toan van Was. I will add a fourth video about the idea that the language and all the letters that we pronounce are used as if they are a kind of echolocalization, so that we can see, hear, and visualize as quickly as possible what's before us, what we are describing, and what we are trying to say, that others can find out what we are describing. And I will give a resume of what I already did. And basically, most simple thing to do would be to make a realization what we can be sure of, that we can use as a reference point of a physical reference point, so that we can see the objects that we name, that we are interpreting as physical foundations in our conversations. This is the first of possibilities. And this is, when we succeed to see the objects, define the objects, and they are very close by in space. That's actually the narrowest place in which we can use to start from. So these are our starting points and references. You can see there the real starting points. If we define them, they can be defined by A, T, and K. A, the starting point of the space, where I am localizing the thing. T, the size, and K, it's more or less the borders until where I can see it. So that's a resume of these three first letters. The second category is when we no longer can pinpoint something into a steady place in space, because it's moving, it's changing, and as soon as we succeed to follow the changes, the first thing we do is we find out that we can follow it with E. What can be filled in these changes is the O. The changes, when they appear and are going into a direction, are the Z, and when we still follow the aftermath, let's say that's the W. The last couple of letters, or the last context that we can have, if we can't see the object as a steady point in space, if we can't find the object or the theme where it is moving or how it is changing, then it becomes a bit difficult, becomes a bit vague, but we can still find a reference to work with, thanks to the larger context, because we see where it is behaving. And there also, when we see, when we start to use a context, that's the E. When we define until where we can still make a context, that's the H. And from where we can start to see what the context can bring forth, it's the S. So that's a resume of these letters. And of course, these are also in the visualization. So we can have it as 1 point in visualization, or in 2 points, because they are moving, like with the two eyes, and in 3 points, because actually it is not just saying from where to where it is moving. There is also a part we don't see. That's the closed eye that you can see. There is a part that we don't see, and that's the last region. And there we deal with also the parts that we don't see. So basically, if you have frequencies, you can also put them together. And actually, it is the lowest frequencies that are close by, which is the physical space. And there you have the 3 starting points, A, T, and K. It's a bit larger when it is moving from left to right. There you have the next frame. It's also your environment and your changes and so on. And the largest frame is also going beyond your scope of what you can see. There you will find the global, the definitions, let's say. And the spaces indeed also can be found into each other, so that when you find the reference point in the space, you have this ATK. When they are in the moves, they have the other references. The O is also in the space, so that's why it's also connected with space. But there's also time involved, and then you have the other points of reference there as well. So that's already one starting point. So that's good. So we can continue from there. And what did I already explain? Not just the focuses until where the focuses are, as you can see how these focuses grow and what they are dealing with. I already told you that. But I also had some points of reference that were the in-between zones, and I didn't have so much time to explain it. I had to stop my recording, and I had to re-record a small part, and I don't think it was clear enough, so I will still continue a couple of videos to add more information, that you will have a very clear idea what these in-between zones are. It's not so complicated as they seem. So I already explained U, D, O and H, and in this video I will start from the spatial frame, and I will explain all the 9 letters there. But I will start from the U. The U, so A, T and K were our objectives in space that we could find and define them as our personal understanding of what we have directly as a starting point, and there we start our own conversation, our own logic from there, from the space, from the physical recognition of elements. The next kind of things, the next level of that region of space is a realization that it's not just our own points of starting points, but there can be other points of starting points that are different. And partly it will also means that we don't, it's not our starting point, so we can only understand it from the idea that it is different, that it is on a different space. So there are more starting points possible. With U, it is a different starting point. A starting point, another central point. I will put it aside. I will put it as I will leave all the rest that we don't need for now. So here it is. So we have our starting point, A, T and K, and there are within space other starting points, and there are also central points of reference, and they are in fact one move further. It is already in the environment, and in the spatial environment, of course, it's within the association of space. And if we would continue our reference point there, the L is the vertical there, it's the growth that can be there, and B is then the extension or the limits and the borders and so on of that area, which is no longer our starting point but a starting point. And the full context we don't see immediately. That's what because it's no longer within our center, it's within a different center. So there is an evolution in our mind how we deal with U, L and B. It's the green area, it's the area of communication, and the context will come after a while, which context is the complete one, because we still start from our vision, how we see it, how we perceive it, and what we understand from it. So it is a partial world, what we see, partial reference. That's how we deal with these letters. And of course, it's the green part, it's the second part. So in in the background there is time involved. Everything which is different we don't see immediately as a center, so also there is time involved to realize the full context. The L, or the growing path, the second one, the growing path, also that needs time to grow in that direction. And B as well, it also has all this growth in the background. We don't focus on it with time aspect, we focus on it with a space aspect, but there is a different involvement in it, and in our conversation we gradually come to the understanding of it. We will not immediately grasp everything from the start, it will go gradually. So here we have our first frame of space with ATKE and then the ULB was there in the background as well. Let's go also to the limits of this space. How do we see that? It's also the context of space itself. How do you see the context? From the borders, of course, there you will see its limits. So how shall I understand it? How can I express it? I will show you. Here are the extra letters, the U, L and B, with the time frame and the context later involved, but that's what we are not focusing upon yet. Because there are, of course, the full reality are three regions: the space one, the time one, and the full context one. So the U, L and B involve time, but we're not focusing upon time. And the C, M and X will then, of course, involve context, but not the full context. Is our context, what we understand of the context. So that's the compromise, a bit of our focus there. And what is it? How do you express it? I didn't express it in the last couple of videos, but there's also always underneath the horizontal, vertical and diagonal. I didn't say much about that, but that's always involved. It's also a geometrical foundation underneath it, and here it comes from the horizontal, vertical and diagonal plane, from the borders. We are actually seeing in our own context, we are actually thinking about it, about the context that we are seeing in space. And with the C, we also realize how well can I progress horizontally. It is then with my own objective, the objective with our starting points of thinking, and with my own logic to know how well can I work with it? How well can I work with it and progress in the horizontal plane? It's a confirmation. How long can I continue actually? That's what the C is. The M, the next one, so that's the first starting point of the border. The M is the growing part of the border, so it is so it also says how well can I follow the growth of my own context? How well can I follow it? How long can I follow it? And so it is checking actually a little bit like how far can I continue with my logic, with my own context, and keep it within that context. That's the way of thinking with the M. So again, I will have an example here. You know, of course, the mama, she tries to see how far does it still works if everything is growing around in the context that I sense, the context that I feel, and the context that I see. Is the growth which is there? How far can I follow it? How far can I follow it up? My attention. Can I keep my attention? That's the M actually. That kind of attention of the context keeps the context together in everything which is growing immediately in that direct space before you. And the X, the last one, it's the diagonal, so it is also about context. It is about the limits of my context, and in a way it also says how well can I still keep my objective, my starting points, because here it's already losing it a little bit. How long can I, not how long, because that's time, but it will be involved more, it will have a link to the time frame, of course, but it is within space. How well can I still keep my context, because there is a limit of from until where I can keep the X under my control. It's no longer so well possible. Yeah, I reached my limit. Anyhow, this was a next one. That was the first part of seeing all the letters in the context. Here were the letters that were related with space, how I focus upon space, and all the orders of references that I used there. So I hope they were also a little bit more clear how they are used as a reference point there. And in the next video I will continue to explain you how the next couple of letters will be about keeping a control on what is happening in a time frame. Okay, this was Gerald Tuavawas again. You can find a larger list of demonstrated words at that short URL. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you didn't yet. And anyhow, thanks for watching. Bye bye.